Hey guys, so today I have an ARC review of an upcoming romance novel. I know it's like very weird for me to be ping-ponging back and forth between this nonfiction thing that I do and the romance, but thank you all for being along on that ride. So today I am going to be talking about a romance coming out very soon called A Dash of Salt and Pepper by Kasoko Jackson. Thanks to the publisher and Edelweiss for giving me a copy to review for my fair and honest opinion. And boy, do I have an opinion, and it feels like it's all over the place and I don't even really know how to start telling you about this. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning and go from there. So at the beginning of the story, you are introduced to your narrator, Xavier Reynolds. And when I say your narrator, I do mean your only narrator, because this book, just straight up front, is not a dual POV. I've talked about this before. I really prefer my romance novels to be dual POV. I think that's where a lot of the richness and the humor can come from. And I just really love getting to know these different people in their lives. And that is not what happens here. Xavier is your only narrator for the entire book. You only get his point of view. But anyway, Xavier has returned home to his hometown of Harper's Cove in Maine, population 9,000. He talks a lot about like it's basically Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls. The one thing that he knew he wanted to do with his life was leave. He is an African American and he basically just wallpapered his walls with pictures of Black excellence in the business world, and that's where he was headed. He went to NYU, he went to get a master's in Chicago, and he was going to be like this master of small business consulting and renovating and helping small business owners meet their full potential. And he was applying for this scholarship that would have sent him to Germany for a year to do some more small business stuff. And he really thought that he was living his best life. He thought he was a lock for this. He had a great boyfriend of I think 4 or 5 years whose name was Bradley. And everything was coming up Xavier. Until it doesn't. The small business that he is working for, doing some consulting for, shutters, closes. Bradley breaks up with him and the foundation rejects his application. So he is at his lowest of low point, finds himself back at home in Harper's Cove and basically feeling like a totally failed 20-something. So Xavier's not really sure what he's going to be doing with his life now until the foundation gets back to him and they say, hey, listen, one of the people that we had previously accepted bailed. They have decided not to do the foundation, and so we have picked you to replace him. And so you need to come up with this money if you want to have do the down payment to go to Germany, and then you'll be on the foundation, the fellowship grant for a year. And so Xavier has blown all his money, leaving Chicago, moving back home to Maine, and he is in desperate, dire straits. This is his dream, and he needs to go be living his best life. So while all of this stuff with the foundation is going on, Xavier is at home. He thinks home alone one very, very early morning, about 4 a.m, and he hears a noise downstairs, and he basically becomes convinced that he is being robbed. And even though it's like, who would rob someone in Stars Hollow, right? For all y'all Gilmore Girls fans. But he goes down and he basically throws Gatorade at and tries to attack the guy who's running around in his family kitchen. And turns out that the guy in the kitchen, his name is Logan. He is the owner and head chef of a local restaurant called The Wharf, who is doing some work with Xavier's mom, who was also a chef at one time, and he was picking up cupcakes. And of course no one told Xavier this, but it is not a meet cute. It is a meet horror story, and they totally get off on the wrong foot. Except that Xavier needs money for this fellowship, right? And so his mom, who also taught him how to cook, suggests that he go work for Logan over at the Wharf, and Xavier is not having it. Logan is a white man, he's 39, he has a daughter, and he's just everything about Harper's Cove that is just like everything he's running from. The, you know, hometown guy wearing the plaid and the boots with the daughter and the house and the pickup truck. And that's just not what Xavier wants. But he needs that money. So he decides to go work at the wharf. This book, besides being single POV, so you only ever get Xavier's, you never get Logan's, is already a problem for me. I'm also not a fan of single parent storylines. I have an issue with the way that the kids get treated often as props in these books. I don't know, it just always makes me feel a little bit weird the way that the kids are characterized. They're very one-dimensional. Logan's daughter Anne is 14 and she is the stereotypical, like, really smart for her age, really independent, but also is like a teenager and is in that like nihilist, I hate the world phase. So that was fairly typical. So going into this, knowing that it was going to be single POV once I started it, knowing from the description that Logan had a kid, and also so my family runs a restaurant and I used to work in a restaurant, and when books have a restaurant setting, they make me really anxious with like memories of having been a waitress, and so they're not usually my favorite. So I was like, okay, I feel like this book is already at 3 strikes and I haven't really started it, but I'm going to give it a chance and I want to review this arc, and so I'm gonna hang out with it and see what happens. I do, to this moment, really feel like not having a POV from Logan is a problem for me. It definitely felt like something the book was really lacking. And in the end, when, you know, reveals start to happen, at a certain point I'm just like, is the reason we never got Logan's POV to like hide some stuff from us? It was really frustrating, and I think the reason that it was really, really frustrating is kind of a weird two-sided coin. And the first is positive, which is that, you know, the book did get off to a rocky start for me. I wasn't super thrilled, but once it really started rolling and Logan and Xavier started to like be hanging out and having a good time with each other, and like you got past all the like awkward opening bits, it was really, really cute. They did have some really cute scenes, and Xavier, just as a personality, is very quippy and sarcastic, and I really just adore that. It did at times kind of feel like the kind of quippy and sassy like level, like constant level of that you might associate with like a young adult novel. It really is that, but I love that. I think that that's hilarious, and I definitely like snorted or laughed out loud. But again, the problem with that is that I didn't get to see like the counterpoint of that from Logan, and I feel like maybe the quippy, sarcastic like tone that always flavored Xavier, if that had been interspersed with Logan's seemingly more serious, you know, it maybe wouldn't have felt like so much. The other issue is that there's like a piece of this book missing. And here's what I mean. The opening was rough for me. I had to really kind of get settled into, you know, everything that was happening. So that was rough. But like I said, once they really start getting together and flirting and doing all that stuff, like it got really cute and definitely spicy. So like that was great. So like the beginning, not great, but then it gets better. And I am glad that I finished the whole thing. But big but. So Logan is presented as this straight-laced, like very serious, like has a kid, is almost 40, runs a business, you know, and he's just very like put together and straight-laced. But you also come to find out that he's like a lead singer in a band, and that does like alt rock covers. And so at first I'm like, okay, everybody in this book is just super talented, because Logan is like Michelin level, could have been a Michelin level, you know, chef, you know, is a musician who apparently at one point was married to a female musician, and, you know, they broke up because she went off to join a label and he wanted to open a restaurant. And like, so he has all of these talents. And then with Xavier, you know, he's a super smart MBA, incredibly like math fact, great at business planning, but is also an incredible chef as well. So I'm like, okay, all of y'all have like a lot of talent. I don't think anyone here is bad at anything, except maybe communication, because it's a romance novel. Obviously you can't have good communication. But then, like, I don't know, I feel like when you get that part of Logan's character revealed to you, the book in that scene, because that's when they really also start to like do some serious flirting, the book is missing this whole section where we start to have a little bit more of Logan's, you know, more laid back personality revealed to us. And we really start to see where he starts softening towards Xavier, who he clearly just doesn't like in the beginning. Xavier is also not a fan of Logan, but we always know, because we see his internal thoughts, that he thinks Logan is very, very hot. So like you kind of get from Xavier how like he's already got like one foot on this train, but with Logan it just seems to come out of nowhere, that all of a sudden his personality just really changes and he's doing some really heavy flirting with Xavier, which again is written really well, and I love that scene. But I was just like, I genuinely felt like I missed like a chapter or 2 chapters. And so if that is not going to bother you, like this kind of like 0 to 60 situation and how this romance kind of takes off, then you will really enjoy this book. Again, once it does take off, it gets really great until the ending, where you're like, this is a very stereotypical communication issue that is gonna happen. You see it coming from a mile away. It's fine, it's a romance novel. We don't expect miracles. I'm just still think it was an overreaction, but I always think it was an overreaction for the most part, so whatever, we're moving on. It's really that gap that really bothered me, and it really bothered me because I really wanted to see that progression in their relationship. And there's a couple of time jumps in the early phase of their relationship where I'm just like, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it happen. So that's why I have mixed feelings on this book. I think it's really well written in the middle to back half. However, the beginning is really rough. One, because it had multiple things in it that I'm not a super fan of, but B, just because it was missing that gradual build-up, that shift from like enemies to lovers. It just kind of really goes enemies to lovers. Like there's no, it's just A to B. There is no middle step. And so if that is something that you really love to see in your romance novels, and you love to see that growth in that sense, you're not gonna get it from this book. And so it's a trade-off. Am I sorry that I stuck with this book, even though in the beginning I put it down and I was like, ugh, do I really want to finish this? Yes. I think that I am happy that I finished it. I wouldn't say that my life would have been like missing something if I hadn't finished it. But like I said, it had a sarcasm and a humor that I really appreciated and made me giggle. And I really did like the relationship when it really got up to speed in a way that I felt was like, yes, this is the correct time for this. So, you know, I would say if you're on the fence about it, definitely give it a read. Check it out from your local library. If you're not sure if you want to buy it, take a chance on it. And hopefully you'll at least get some laughs out of it, even if the pacing is a little bit off. It is very sweet, it's spicy, it's cute. I even did love Logan's daughter Anne, even though she's a fairly stereotypical teenager. She did also have some really great singers, and I have a deep, deep weakness for characters with excellent sarcastic singers. So take a chance on it, get some laughs out of it. It's not a perfect book by any means, but I am glad that I finished it. So, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Glad I got this done on time. Finals are literally happening right now, and I absolutely avoided things I really need to do that do have deadlines that are coming up to read this book. So if it hadn't been worth my time, do believe me, I would have told you. once you've read it, if you've read it, come back, let me know what you think. If I missed anything or some other recommendations, leave me a hello down in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.